Good evening, and welcome to the book club. Tonight, a slim volume from the discount bin, a novel titled The Federalist. 85 chapters. Frankly, it needed an editor. Our author is a reclusive figure named Publius.
It's not a novel.
A Roman, obviously, given the name.
It's a collection of newspaper op-eds from 1787 and 88, arguing that people should ratify the Constitution. Publius was a pen name. It was three men: Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay.
Three men writing under one name. How very avant-garde. A collective. I respect the hustle. Shall we open on chapter 1?
This is going to be a long book club.
Chapter 1. Our narrator announces the American people face a historic choice. I assumed paper or plastic. But no, he means whether to adopt this Constitution. A bold cliffhanger for a first chapter. 3 stars. The prose is purple, the stakes are vague, and nobody dies.
Hamilton starts big by reminding them that this is a huge moment. For the first time in history, regular people get to sit down and choose their government using their brains and not having one forced on them by a king or a war. That's the whole idea: reflection and choice, not accident and force. Then he gets to the problem. The country was running on the Articles of Confederation at the time, and it wasn't working. The government was too weak to hold the states together. Something had to give. Then comes his warning, and it still holds up today. He tells readers to watch out for politicians who wrap themselves in "I'm fighting for the people" language, because sometimes that's just ambition in disguise. Loud doesn't mean honest. And then he does something kind of refreshing. He tells everyone straight up, hey, I'm on the side of the Constitution. I'm going to argue for it. Here's why. No pretending to be neutral, just an honest pitch. Hamilton is really just grabbing his readers by the shoulders and saying, this matters. Don't get fooled. And here's my case.
So, it's a self-help book.
It's the founding argument for the Constitution.
Self-help. For a country. I'll allow it. Chapter 23. And here, friends, our narrator turns. He demands, I quote the spirit, if not the letter, unlimited power. Unlimited. An army with no ceiling, a treasury with no lock. Publius reveals himself as the villain of his own book. A heel turn for the ages. I've read antagonists with less ambition. 5 stars for menace, 1 for subtlety.
Hamilton's whole point here is pretty simple. If you're going to have a national government, it actually has to be powerful enough to do its job. He starts with the big idea that the country needs a government that can handle the essentials: defending the nation, keeping the peace, dealing with foreign countries. Nobody really disagrees with that part. The question is how much power that government needs to pull it off. His answer is basically as much as the job requires. His logic goes like this: you can't hand someone a responsibility and then tie their hands. If the government is in charge of defending the country, then it needs the power to raise armies, fund them, and act when threats show up. And since you never know when or where a threat might come from, you can't put a hard cap on those powers ahead of time. Then he points at the Articles of Confederation as Exhibit A of what happens when you don't do this. The old system gave the government responsibilities, but not the tools to carry them out. Predictably, it flopped. And his big takeaway is basically to pick a lane. Either commit to a real union with a government that can actually function, or don't bother having one at all. Half measures don't work. Hamilton is just saying if the job is real, the powers have to be real too. It's a budget argument, Professor.
A villain who does his own plumbing and his own budget. I've never been so unsettled. 5 stars. Chapter 52, a chapter about a voting schedule. Elections every 2 years, forever on a loop, repetitive by design. But the truly alarming revelation: to serve in this house, one needs no property, no title, no breeding whatsoever. They've flung the doors open to the rabble. Anyone may simply run. As a man of refinement, I clutched my pearls. I own several.
Number 52 is by James Madison, and it's all about the House of Representatives and how it's built and why. He starts with who gets to vote for House members, and his answer is the people. Directly, not the state legislatures, not some special group, just regular voters. That was a big deal at the time because it meant the House was designed to be the branch closest to everyday citizens. The people's branch. Then he gets into the term length. House members serve for 2 years, and he knows some folks think that's too long. So he walks through the logic. 1 year isn't really enough because by the time someone learns the job, figures out the issues, and actually gets something done, they're already up for re-election. 2 years gives them enough time to be effective, but it's still short enough that voters can boot them out fast if they mess up. He also points to other examples like Britain and some of the states to show that 2 years is actually pretty modest compared to what other places do. It's not some wild power grab. His bigger point underneath all of it is about accountability. The House is supposed to stay tightly connected to the people. Direct elections plus short terms equals representatives who have to keep listening to voters or they're gone. Madison is just saying that the House belongs to the people, and here's how we make sure it stays that way. And that same 2-year clock is why the House never really stops running today. They spend almost the entire term campaigning and raising money for the next election. The rabble includes you, Professor, and me.
Speak for yourself. I've been to the opera, on purpose. 2 stars, a whole chapter about a calendar. Chapter 67. The critics claim this president fellow is merely a king in a smaller hat. And, I'll be honest, I found the critics persuasive. I, too, suspect he is a king. Publius protests loudly that he is not a king. Which, as any reader knows, is exactly what someone hiding a king would say. There was also a passage about vacant Senate seats. I used it as a bookmark.
Number 67 is back to Hamilton, and this one kicks off the section of papers about the presidency. But it's really Hamilton explaining what the president does, instead of Hamilton pushing back against critics who were saying the president would basically be a king in disguise. He starts off rather frustrated, and he points out that opponents of the Constitution have been running around exaggerating the powers of the president, trying to scare people into thinking America was about to trade King George for a homegrown version. And Hamilton's countering with, come on, that's not what the office is. Then he zeroes in on one specific accusation, which was critics were claiming the president would have the power to fill empty Senate seats, which would make him sound pretty monarchy-ish. He basically pulls out the Constitution and says, read it again. That power actually belongs to the state governors, not the president. Critic either misread it or twisted it on purpose. He spends most of the paper just cleaning up that one misunderstanding because he wants to show his readers that the anti-Constitution folks are exaggerating, and you shouldn't take their scary claims at face value. Underneath it all, he's setting up the papers that come next. Number 67 is the warm-up. The next several papers will actually walk through what the president can and can't do. Hamilton is just saying not to buy the he'll be a king panic. Read the actual document. And honestly, this is the most modern paper of the 5. I just spent a whole week analyzing a senator's social media for another class, and it was the exact same game. The loudest claim about a politician can or can't do is almost never the true one, and hardly anyone stops to check. Hamilton was fighting misinformation back in 1788. We just gave it faster internet. Professor, you took the scaremonger's side. Remember chapter 1? The warning about readers who believe the scary story instead of checking it? That's you. You're the guy the book warned about.
I'm in the book? Which chapter? I'd like the page number for my records.
Chapter 1. It wasn't a compliment.
All press is press. 4 stars. I'm a character now. Chapter 78. The finale. Publius ends his grand epic by introducing the weakest character in the book. The least dangerous branch, he calls the courts. Terrible structure. You don't save your feeblest hero for the last page. However, one detail perked me right up. These judges are appointed for life. No elections, no performance reviews, cannot be fired. Where does one apply? Asking for a friend. The friend is me.
Number 78 is Hamilton again, and this time he's making the case for the judicial branch. He starts by making an argument that sounds almost backwards at first. He says the judiciary is actually the weakest of the 3 branches. Congress controls the money, the president controls the military, but all the courts have is judgment. They can't enforce anything on their own. He famously calls it the least dangerous branch. Then he gets to the big design question of why the federal judges will get their jobs for life. His answer is independence. If judges had to worry about re-election or keeping a politician happy, they'd bend their rulings to stay in favor. Lifetime appointments let them focus on the law without looking over their shoulder. Then he drops the idea that really matters, being judicial review. He argues that when a congressional law passes and conflicts with the Constitution, the courts have to side with the Constitution. Because the Constitution is the higher law, it's what the people set up as the ground rules, and regular laws can't override it. That's a huge idea. It's the foundation for the Supreme Court's power to strike down laws, which is still how things work today. His bigger point underneath all of it is about protection. Independent courts are what keep individual rights safe when the public gets caught up in the heat of the moment or when politicians overreach. Hamilton is just saying that the courts are the weakest branch on paper, but that's exactly why they need independence. They're the ones guarding the Constitution. You would be impeached by lunch.
They'd have to catch me. I'm appointed for life.
You're not appointed to anything.
Yet. 5 stars. Best chapter. It had a job opening. In summary, The Federalist, by the collective known as Publius. A sprawling, uneven, wildly implausible work. A handful of men argue an entire nation into existence, by mail, in a single summer. No editor would permit it. And yet, 3.5 stars, with a grudging 4th for ambition. I've begun a sequel in my mind, in which Publius is revealed to have been a ghost the whole time. Anyway, back to you, the one who apparently read it.
So if we pull all 5 of these together, here's what you're really looking at. Hamilton and Madison weren't just writing random essays. They were building an argument, piece by piece, for why the Constitution was worth ratifying. Number 1 is the opener. Hamilton grabs everyone's attention and says, "This is a huge moment. Don't get fooled by loud voices, and here's my honest case." Number 23 is the "Why We Need This" paper. He argues the government has to be strong enough to actually do its job. You can't hand it responsibilities and then tie its hands. Then the next 3 zoom in on the 3 branches, one at a time. Number 52 covers Congress, specifically the House. Madison shows it's the people's branch, elected directly, with short terms to keep it accountable. Number 67 covers the presidency. Hamilton calms everyone down and says, the president isn't a king. Critics are exaggerating. Read the actual document. And number 78 covers the courts. Hamilton argues they're the weakest branch, which is exactly why judges need lifetime appointments, so that they can independently protect the Constitution itself. Put it all together, you get one big story. A government strong enough to work, structured carefully enough not to become a threat, with each branch designed on purpose. That's the whole pitch. That's what these 5 out of 85 chapters are doing. You didn't read any of it, did you?
Not one word. Riveting, though. 4 stars.